In around 2010 to 2009, 2010, that was when I sort of like progressed with the whole idea of going and doing dentistry. So I used to play football with like a lot of dentists. It's a genuine story though. So when I was with my uncles and my cousins, a lot of their friends were like dentists. So like when I'd go play football, so I remember speaking to some of these dentists, and I remember thinking, right, actually you don't look like an ordinary dentist. Like you don't look like those old dentists with a lab coat on.
Yeah, with
You know,
long beards.
yeah, with long
The
beards.
big ones.
Do you know what I mean? And they put their foot on the chair and they like rag your tooth out. So I never thought of them as that. And when I spoke to them and I kind of sat with them and mentioned that I want to do dentistry, they were like, look, come shadow me, blah, blah, blah. So I went to shadow them and I thought, you know what, actually, this is 2010. I remember thinking, you know what, actually, I like the idea of becoming a dentist, not just because you're doing treatments and like fixing teeth and smile makeovers, but the way you chat to your staff, the way you have that little break where you can, you know, do a bit of admin and maybe take photos and look at cases and exactly. Yeah, that's it. And like how it brings in art as well. So like they were showing me like this is how you place a filling, and you don't just lump it in and push it with your thumb. You actually like focus on like the aesthetics of it.
Yeah.
So around 2010, 2011, when I was in college in second year, I thought, right, I'm going to do dentistry. Like that's it. I was adamant. So I wrote up a personal statement. It wasn't the best though, I'm not going to lie to you. Back then I was a different person. Now I'm a whole completely different person because of experiences of going abroad. So I did a personal statement. I got my A-level grades. I thought I did pretty well. And then when I applied for it, I didn't get in. So 2011, I decided to take a year out. So I started working in Sainsbury's. Yeah, so I had a gap year. So I worked in Sainsbury's, but you know what it is? Like back then, I didn't have the work ethic. I only worked 12 hours a week. Bear in mind, you have 7 days off of doing nothing. Whether it's like tweaking your personal statement, trying to improve certain things about yourself or whatever it is to help you get into like university. So I took a year out. I thought maybe working in Sainsbury's, doing a few extra days in a dental practice might help, but it didn't help. But I thought genuinely I've put my effort in. So I got the grades, had the personal statement. So I did everything, and then I thought, you know what? Second time I can't even get in as well. So I don't know what else to do. And I didn't want to do healthcare besides being a dentist. So I gave up on that idea and I thought, you know, I'm just going to spend a few months just thinking about it. So I went Umrah, my uncle got married, so I just focused on that. And around then, my uncle, who's a doctor, worked with a doctor who went to Czech Republic. So he goes to me, he goes, you know what, Asif, he goes, if you're really interested in going abroad, why don't you chat to this guy? And I thought, going abroad, man, I was like, that's long. And I was always known to be the guy that hated leaving home. Like I loved home cooked food. I wouldn't try anything. I was fixed on a set menu. Now I'll eat anything. So I was fixed on a set menu, and these guys were like, you're not going to survive abroad. And I was like, yeah, but I don't know, like, let's just give it a shot. I spoke to him. He gave me the information for the admin team abroad, Czech Republic. And then I spoke to them and they were like, look, you know, come in for an entrance exam and a test and all this type of stuff. So I went in, did the test, and I thought, oh man, I've got the place. Now I've got to make a decision. Do I really want to do dentistry and go abroad? So I went, I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna go for it.
So did you
Take the faith.
Did you go with, like, friends? Or did you know
I didn't know anyone. So the only people that took me were my uncle, my brother, and a few cousins. And I thought, you know what, they'll drop me off. I'll settle in for like a few days and I'll be all right. I'll meet some friends. But honestly, like the lead up to going to that university, bro, you don't understand, man. I was dying inside because I was like, I'm not just going away for university. I'm going to a whole different country. If I want to come home, I got to book a flight, take time out from my schedule, or, you know, in my lectures or practicals or whatever it is. Come home. It'd probably take me longer getting home than it would me spending the time on the weekend, because here in the UK you can come home on a Friday, go back to uni on a Sunday. Over there you can't do that. By the time I get here I'm already flying back out. So I went, and I would say that the first maybe 6 to 8 months were like the most difficult period, man. You know, when you're home alone, when you're in that apartment or your student accommodation and you're by yourself and you got no one else around you, even though you meet friends and stuff, but it's the most difficult period of your life, man, because you're sat there and you're thinking, I can't cook. I haven't got mum here to give me food. There's not even that many halal places, probably the one, that was slightly questionable halal place. And I thought, I don't know how I'm gonna survive. But like when I look back now, Alhamdulillah, that was 2012 when I started and 2017 is when I finished. I spent 5 years abroad. There's an interim period. We still come home for summer and all that type of stuff, but I had to learn how to do the laundry myself, iron myself, cook for myself. And even cooking was basic, man. It was like fish fingers and pasta and rice.
I don't think that qualifies as cooking.
It doesn't. It actually doesn't. But now, you know what's funny? I learned how to cook in 2020 during lockdown, and I wish I learned that back then, but the passion for it's come now. But back then, like, I couldn't focus on it because my fear was, if I fail, what am I going to do? Because you got to remember, you don't get student loans and finance when you're abroad. Your family have to pay for it. And I don't come from like a rich background. Do you understand? Like, my dad's a taxi driver and he's worked really hard his whole life, and my mom's worked really hard her whole life to provide for us. So for me, it was always the fear that if I don't pass, that money's gone down the drain. So I had to really put my effort in. So I pushed myself every day. And 5 years later, I remember when I did my exams, and I was like, this is the greatest feeling ever when you pass and you get to call your mum and you're like, Mum, I made it. My mum was there cooking, and I was like, I literally just collapsed on the bed. I was like, I'm done. But the period in between was difficult because you do get a few like difficult periods where it's not welcoming. It is a welcoming country, but there's certain parts where people are a bit racist, a bit abusive, and you do experience that. But no matter where you go in the world, it's like that. So, but I managed to overcome it. It was all right. It wasn't that bad, you know. Going abroad was actually a good experience. You know what? I look back now, yeah, and I think, how the hell did I do it? If you put me there now, I don't know how I'll do it.
I go to London for 2 weeks to see family.
It's mad, man. But when you're there, you'll do it. You know, when you're there and you're put into that situation, man, you'll get it done. But when you have to think about it, you think too much. Sometimes you just got to throw yourself into that. But ultimately, like, I wanted to do dentistry. So for me, that drive was there. So only thing that kept me going, man. And also coming home, knowing that I've passed and their investment into my education hasn't been a failure. But yeah, crazy, isn't it? And now we're here in Leeds 12 years later. 12 years ago is when I went. 12 years later, I'm here now, sat here. I would have never thought. Mad. Alhamdulillah. That was so hard. You got to remember, when you're away for 5 years, you're mentally and physically away from a lot of people. You seclude yourself as much as you interact, socialize, and you chill. But it's so difficult because you come home and then all of a sudden you're back with family and friends and you're socializing, and it feels weird to say it because people are like, hey, like, what's wrong with that? But it does take time to adapt back into it because you're so used to being alone. Mentally, you're so used to being alone that now you're back together. It's like a whole different world. Yeah. But like, alhamdulillah, man, I'm in a whole different, I don't know, mindset now. Now, like, I appreciate being with family more than ever. You know, you kind of forget what it's like to be around people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You just have your friends who become your family, and I met some wicked people, but now it's like, any moment I get to spend time with family, man, I'm taking it, and honestly, I don't care. You know what it's like, because I value that now. And I feel like you don't know until you actually go live away and you come back home. It's like going to war. The only difference is, so far, I haven't come back with PTSD. That might still happen.